let's jump right into it. And if you have questions, post it on Q&A. Me and Nicole will try to address them right away, or at the end, we have some time planned for a Q&A, obviously. So with that being said, today's webinar, as mentioned, AI for lawyers, master next level legal AI. We have prepared a specific use case for this webinar. And we right away start with one question: what priority does legal AI have in your organization? I think Nicole have prepared the survey. If you could answer quickly, what kind of priority does legal AI have in your organization, so we can address that later on. So the first answers are coming in. We have, it's a low priority. We're waiting for the next AI generation. We are evaluating the options. That's what we see and hear in the market. There's a lot of evaluation happening right now. We want to invest in legal AI in the near future. We are already using legal AI. That's pretty cool. If people and companies are already using it, but the majority of it will be in the evaluation stage. And I think once we have finished the survey, Nicole will release the results. And you see the evaluation. That's basically, it's the same what we see in the market, that many companies, they have now moved into the evaluation process of what is legal AI and what can they do for us. And for today's webinar, I'll present you one of the or two use cases that one of our clients did with us, so you get a better picture of what capabilities legal AI actually can bring to your company as well. So I have here a couple of logo from our company list, from customers of ours. And what do these companies have in common? Because you see there's all kind of industries. There's construction, there's banking, there's research, there's consulting, energy, industry. Even a university, hospital of Köln is a customer of ours. And these companies, they all have one thing in common, maybe more, but one thing in particular. And it's contracts, contracts, contracts. It's more contracts, it's more complicated contracts. And somehow the level and the amount of contracts and the complexity of the contracts are ever increasing from year to year, but somehow the resources are not. And that presents some problems to every organization. And we call them the usual suspects in your legal team. It's always like the demand of do more with less, since most legal teams in companies are still seen as a cost center. It's the cost pressure. Why does it cost so much? Why do you need more resources for that? You have worked up until now. It has worked somehow. You made it work. So the cost pressure is always there. And then besides your daily job, what you have to do for your company, there's also an increasing amount of technology coming on the market, disruptive technology, that you have to make sure that you're still understanding of what kind of technology actually could support us. And in the legal space, we see it now for the last 5 to 8 years. There's more and more coming. So the challenge of actually being on top of the game with the technology development is time consuming, it's complex. So these are the three usual suspects, how we call them in companies. And it doesn't matter how big the organization is. It doesn't matter which industry you're in, whether you're a non-profit organization or you're a for-profit company. The challenges, what we see and what we hear in the market is always the same. So what we will discuss today, we have two use cases that we will present to you today, what is possible with legal AI. One use case is the pre-signing use case. So everything that once you have drafted the contract until the contract is signed, there's a lot of things happening. One of that is obviously the contract review part, how to summarize the contract, how to classify it, making sure all checkpoints are in the contract. you might want to have data extraction from the contract and put it in a CLM or stuff like that. And then also, if you have to change and rewrite a contract, are there formulating assistants with legal AI, where legal AI can actually help? And then the second use case that we are looking at today is the post-signing use case. Capturing metadata, doing proper risk management by understanding what is actually in the contracts that you guys have active in your repository, as any company has. If you do audits and compliance projects, if you have due diligence projects, you have to understand what is in the contracts. And sometimes there are like 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 contracts in the company, depending on the size and of the organization, that need to be managed, that the data, they carry data, and nobody knows what's actually in those contracts. So these use cases we will cover today. So we asked ourselves, how can we make sure that the value of this of AI can be actually translated on a business side? We went on and asked ourselves, what are the costs to review and analyze contracts in a company? So this question would also go to you, also with a survey. I think, Nicole, yes, you already released the survey. Can you answer, do you know the costs to review and analyze your contracts in the company? And if you know it, do you have like a number there, like a euro or US dollars or Swiss francs or any kind of currency where you can say, hey, these are actually the costs that the company has to spend to review contracts, to analyze contracts, to manage contracts. So while all the people are doing the survey, we have already released the results. And this is something that covers basically what we also see and talk about in the market, that most companies, they don't have an understanding of what it actually costs to manage and review and analyze the contracts. And for today's webinar, we have prepared those two use cases, and we have the calculations behind it, so you get a better understanding of what is actually needed to transparently say, hey, these are the costs that contract reviews and contract analysis are generating in a company. The use case that we present to you today is, we have a company, a customer of ours. They have around about 300 new contracts per year to review. They have around about 1,500 active contracts to analyze, which they haven't done in the past. That's why they needed an analysis of these contracts on specific data points. The legal team consists of 3 lawyers in the legal department and 4 employees in purchasing, where those 300 contracts that they wanted to have reviewed by legal AI have generated. And what we see and what we calculated with the customer is, we basically went on and said, okay, let's calculate the true cost of contract work. So with 3 full-time employees in the legal team, with 300 incoming contracts, it was around about a total contract value of 30 million. So they roughly have a contract value per contract was 100,000 euros. And they had 1,500 active contracts, which they didn't analyze and extract the data points in the past. And if you calculate it, it's basically a simple calculation to review the contracts. And they took around about 4 hours to review one contract for Germany at an average cost per hour base for an employee in the legal department was 90 euros calculated. That's a rough average in Germany. So the contract review cost was around about 108,000 euros just to review those 300 contracts per year. What we also calculated is the overlooked contract risk. So we all know, and some lawyers will never admit it, but lawyers make also mistakes, right? And sometimes you miss a clause, sometimes you miss a data point, sometimes you miss that there's something in the contract that should not be in the contract, or sometimes you miss even those things that should be in a contract, right? So having this review quality, there are some studies that say 1% of the total contract value is basically cost of risk. Some studies say it's more, it's 2%, it's 3%. There's even studies that say, hey, it's at 10% at the moment. That you basically, forgive me, my little one is coming home from school and I have to juggle at the moment. Hoi Emma, ich bin im Webinar und gerade raufgehen. Sorry for that. So with that being said, the total contract risk overlooked is at 300,000 euros, and manually extracting some data from it would cost another 52,000 euros, which summarizes then at the true cost of 460,000 euros for this company, for the 300 contracts coming in that need to be reviewed and analyzed. This is a huge number, and when you calculate it like that, then you say, hey, this basically costs us 500,000 euros just to review the contracts, right? We also have then calculated what would be the cost for analyzing those existing contracts that have been signed in the past and nobody extracted the metadata out of it. And when we apply 60 minutes per contract review time with the costs of review, if you give it externally, it's even more. But we came up with 375,000 euros for the analysis project. Now, before I go walk you through the results, how they changed the cost structure of contract review and contract analysis in their company, I want to make sure that you basically understand how we achieved this. So you can see that basically using AI for those things like contract review and contract analysis really can bring costs down in a company. So before I do that, I forgot this slide. Hidden costs. This is a very important one. So what we see here is like the true cost that you see, time invested, time saved, time invested in all these topics. Hidden costs of a contract work is if you have many contracts and your legal team is not able to manage that in a fast way, and you know that experience when sales sends you in a contract to review and you have like 20 contracts to review for that week, and sales will wait a week, two, until they get feedback on even simple things like an NDA. And they ask themselves, why do you need 2 weeks time to get me your feedback? Because I have a customer here that wants to close and I'm waiting for you for 2 weeks, so I couldn't close it earlier. So a slower sales process due to a longer time to actually process a contract within your company leads to less revenue per year. Then also delayed purchasing processes. If on the same side, if the purchase team has to wait for your feedback, they probably get, less or lesser conditions, which basically translate into an increase of unnecessary costs on their end when they buy stuff. And then again, for you yourself, the hidden cost of less time for value-added work leads to raising frustration level, because after the 700th NDA that you review as a legally trained person, as a lawyer, and you say, hey, isn't there anything else I could do for the company than just reviewing NDAs? And these are the hidden costs that we didn't calculate in. It's also possible to do that if you dig deep into those processes of your company, but we didn't do that for this specific use case. So with that being said, here's a summary, and then we can jump right into a demo, how we achieved this. You see the manual analysis of contracts. It's high costs, increasing legal risks, longer processes lead to more costs, less revenue, and the frustration level can raise if you always do the same thing, the low value work. So let's jump into the demo, and I'll show you how our customer actually achieved to lower the costs, to increase the speed of the throughput from contracts. And for that, I will show you how they did it. here in front of you, you have my Word environment. This is a general terms and conditions, a template contract. And what we did is we implemented Legartis, and they were able to review contracts right in the Word environment. Here we have this add-in. They started the Legartis add-in, and then I need to quickly change this to English. So the first question was like, what kind of contract type this is. You see here with AI, you can review any contract type, and this is the general terms and conditions. And then you have to select under which rules, playbook you want to apply for this contract, especially if you're an international company and you have, for example, a customer in Switzerland and a customer in South Africa. And then there are certain rules that apply for a Swiss contract and certain rules that apply for a South African contract. And you basically can set up a playbook for both countries or for both territories. And you can select then the right playbook to review a contract. And now if I press continue, the AI runs through the contract from top to bottom, every sentence, every word. It's a semantic understanding of language, analyzes the contract. And you see here after a couple of seconds, I have revised and analyzed an 8-page contract and have here the summary of what kind of red flags do I actually have in this contract. You also see here we have this highlighting feature, gives you a better understanding of what is actually what has been reviewed by AI and what still need to be reviewed by a legal person, or which kind of sentence doesn't carry any valuable information. So you have both sides here. The red ones are obviously the red flags. And when you see the open tasks, you see here AI can detect clauses that need correction. AI can detect clauses that are not acceptable. And AI also can detect clauses that are missing that should be in a contract, right? So it really helps you coming off from having all the information in your head and going through the checklist, or in even a better version, having somewhere a spreadsheet or a PDF file with all the information that you basically then have here, your contract in Word, and then you have here the PDF file, and then you cross-reference what have I checked, what I need to check for. So with AI, you can really speed up that process and see what are the most relevant points that are not according to our rule book, and identify them and start changing them. I will just quickly fire up the track changes modus. I will do one example. You see here the contractual penalty clause that is not acceptable. Now I could read through 8 pages and see where is it written, right? Or I can go into here and identify the phrase and just delete it here by a click of a button. And then this is done, and the contract has no penalty clause anymore inside. So AI can really support you with those standardized reviews where you need to find information very fast. Even if it's an 80-page contract, it can help you save much time in finding the relevant information, finding the relevant places in the contract where you have to apply changes. I'll give you another example. When a clause needs correction, we take here the period of limitation. You see also here, AI is able to recognize, even if in the contract, if in the contract the limitation period is written or mentioned in different places here. You can identify all the places where you basically can go through every place and see, okay, what is written here, what is written here. And we have now in the beta version, we have a correction suggestion engine, also AI-based. And let's see if it works this time. Because it's still in beta, I'll give the dev team another couple of days and weeks to release that for all our customers. And here, basically, it should be then, maybe I can give you another example with the force majeure clause. It gives you a selection of what would be the suggestion of AI. So you know that feature from the, here we have it now. So I can apply the corrections based on what we need to review and what needs to be in the force majeure clause. In this example, we have included here the alien invasions. not so seriously meant, obviously. But obviously the alien invasion is not mentioned, and then AI corrections will go and make a correction. So that's how we actually achieved this gain of giving back time, making the process much faster, finding information much faster. And what you've seen here now is all this information that you see here that we can analyze and review. Everything if we can analyze it, we can extract it. If we can extract it, we can put it in our dashboards and visualize whatever is written in a contract. We can export it to a CSV file. We can export it to your ERP system. If you have a CLM in place, you can export that to a CLM environment where you gather all the metadata information from those contracts, whether it's a one contract unit or whether you have 1,500 contracts like our customers and want to analyze actually those metadata. So going back to the slides, you see here the same slide with an added thing. What we have achieved with the customer is the true cost went down by 75%. So those 300 contracts, they only cost them now around about 70,000 euros. Saved a lot of time for lawyers to actually, do more valuable work, whether it's litigation, whether it's M&A project, just having more time for those value-added work. And also for the contract analysis project, the estimation of 375,000 went down to 72,000. So we saved them basically around about 81% of the cost to analyze 1,500 active contracts with around about 20 data points. I think it was 20 data points that we had to extract from those contracts. And with that, we suddenly saw that the discussions within a company changed from the legal department or the contract management, contract review is a cost center to, hey, actually we can drive down the costs and legal can become a business enabler. Legal can make sure that we have a faster turnaround of sales contracts, of purchasing contracts, and get better conditions, do more revenue in less time. So we are not the bottleneck anymore in a company, but we are really a business enabler where business doesn't have to wait for our feedback until we review or analyze contracts. Also, CFOs come and say, hey, now I have a better understanding of the risks that we actually carry for a long time within our company because we know what is written in those contracts. Changes the whole game for a legal department. Coming from place of it costs a lot, it takes too much time to actually legal is being a business enabler. So that was the effect with our customer. Now my question to you, if you want to know your true contract costs, get back to me, write us, book a meeting with us, and we're happy to help you with our experience that we gathered now through in the last 2-3 years that we are still on the market and having those discussions with our customers. If you like to explore that and dive a little bit deeper into those costs of your contract management, of your contract review, of your contract analysis, happy to support, happy to help. Get back to me, and you can book a meeting via the website or just write me at darko@legartis.ai, and we are happy to explore that. So the outcome, as said, we had a 80% reduction in review time, more standardization. Also, what we have witnessed with the customer is that the purchasing department was able to actually review contracts themselves. So the contracts didn't end up on the table of the legal department, which saved obviously also quite some time. And with the analysis part, obviously, the contract insight that were gained to identify risk, to actually make sure that, and you all know from experience, it happens sometimes you miss you miss the deadline for terminating a contract, and then you have to pay another year because you missed the deadline, because there's so many contracts to manage, right? And if you have those metadata, you never miss a deadline again. You'll never pay for something that you actually wanted to terminate for you. The cost reduction, no more guesswork, risk identified, and why to start legal AI now? It's a significant acceleration in cost saving, as we just have shown you in this use case, cost saving and significant acceleration of the business processes in your company. You basically get rid of the repetitive work and can focus more on added value work by letting AI do those tedious tasks, analyzing those contracts, finding the information, extracting those information. Worst thing would be like you have a contract and then you have to copy paste the information into a spreadsheet, and then you have to make a CSV file out of it, and then you have to upload it somewhere else. So this can be all done by AI directly. And then one thing, why to start now, is AI has come to stay. We see there's a lot of traction in the markets with a lot of companies from all kinds of industries, and they realize that AI has really the potential to support, to help, to make things much faster, much more standardized as well, increase the quality of the services that legal teams provide. And I think building AI skills rather now than later is quite a good idea. So with that being said, I think I'm almost on point, and we can jump into the Q&A session. And I see, I'm not sure, Nicole, did you walk through the webinar chat? I think some questions have been posted in the webinar chat. But let's first go through the Q&A section and actually answer all the questions of our participants. So CD was asked, I'm convinced that this is true, but CEOs of many companies are afraid of confidentiality problems, because if you use AI, the scanned documents that will review this data, okay, this is a big issue and is number one fear of most companies. How do you answer to this problematic? That's an easy one, actually, CD. So it depends on what kind of AI or which vendor do you choose. If you go for the big ones, like the Microsofts of these worlds, they have their policies. They're big enough to mandate that that you actually run your contracts through their cloud solutions, which is totally fine. I mean, most of them are GDPR compliant and everything. I think you're from South Africa, if I remember it correctly. So if you're a company from Europe, you look for a GDPR compliant server hosting. We, as a small company, we have the flexibility. So our servers are in Switzerland. If you don't like that, we can run it on your private cloud of the company. If you don't like that, or your IT department doesn't like that, we also can run our solution on your on premise. So basically, whatever you like, based on your security requirements, we can accommodate. The bigger ones are less happy to do that, but you can basically solve this problem with data security by choosing one of those three possibilities. So Casey asks, on what basis exactly the playbook operates? If I want to check whether a contract complies with European Union legislation, if and how would such analysis take place? So how our playbook works today is basically you translate all the guidelines that you want the AI to check for into the playbook. We don't have yet like an existing synchronization with any outside source like European law, right? This is coming. This will come end of year, beginning of next year, where you basically have the ability to build out the playbook, and then you can connect to an external source, for example, European Union legislations, And then our AI agents will be able to check for whether this is compliant with those legislations that you need to comply with. It's a feature that we built. I think the big challenge here is accuracy, as always, because if an AI produces 50% accurate results, it's just not accurate enough that it's actually a helpful tool for you in a daily business. So that's why we provide accuracy above 95% with our legal AI. And once we do such a connection with external resources to check for whether our playbook, our guidelines are according to those legislation, and we just want to make sure that we are accurate. And that's why it will be, I think, possible end of year, beginning of next year. So can you have a chat with 50 contracts instead of only one contract with one client? So yes and no. I think if I correctly understand the use case, you want to upload 50 contracts instead of one, and then run it through a playbook and get a summarization for every contract, if that's correctly. It is possible, but it's not yet possible because we are building now an AI agent, basically a chatbot with AI capabilities, where you can then upload the contracts and ask specific questions to any contract. But we'd have to look at the use case that you describe, whether we can do that today out of the box, or whether this is something that will come in the next couple of weeks and months. So, CD, does the tool include a proposition of standard practice articles? For example, if there's an article on a penalty of 10%, does it recommend, for example, of 1%? No, it does not. This is something that you can build in the playbook, but it does not come out of the box with a recommendation engine. Because sometimes it depends on in which country you are. For example, in Germany, you have to have a lawyer's license to actually give consulting on these topics. So we as a tech company, we are not allowed to consult on these kind of things. So that's why we don't entertain this. It would be too complicated for all the countries just to make sure that we are actually allowed or not allowed to do this or not. So it's a gray area. That's why we don't go into that gray area. A visual tool for the legal department, and we decide, yes, it would be a visual tool for your legal department. You decide. Some countries can be quite specific and complex, and we don't always know what is the standard practice in a specific area. So again, standard practice, if you seek the information based on legislation, as I mentioned earlier, it will be possible in the future to check for what the legislation says. Other than that, standard practices, it's really a hard definition. So AI, it could be based on your own practices, that AI in the future can understand, hey, you have accepted the 10% quite often, so make sure that that this could be something to entertain in a specific contract. But other than that, I'm not sure how this use case could be built. I'd have to get back to my dev team to see if this is something that they actually could build. Then have the cost for the AI, from Alexandra, have the cost for the AI tool already been included in this calculation? Yes, it has. So what we included in the calculation is the cost of the AI tool, plus, because if you review it, so we have calculated the 4 hours reduced to one, so by 60%, 1.5 hour approximately, added the license cost, and then we came up with the number. Which LLM model is pre-trained and used behind the curtain? Oh, that's a good question, Rainer. What is used to anonymize private data and to hide business secrets while using the illegal AI? So we have RAG installed, but that's a technical question that would be better suited for one of our dev team or the CTO. We know that we have developed, since Legartis exists since 7 years, we have developed our own AI as a base. and then connected large language models to get the flexibility. So that's why we actually achieved those accurate results with above 90-95%, where we have our robust AI that we have trained the last 7 years, and then started attaching the large language models to actually get also the flexibility of understanding metadata in a contract. But for a more in-depth technical discussion, I'd really suggest book a meeting, and then we can see what kind of questions you actually have, and discuss it with our CTO. Then, Anita, does the tool analyze sector-specific requirements, for example, labor leasing, and assess liabilities related to it? If yes, how detailed does it go? Does it take into account jurisdictional nuances, for example? I think this goes into the same question as we have answered before. So every requirement, every specific requirement, you have to today build into the playbook, and then the AI exactly knows what to do and how to review stuff. Anything else that you say you want the AI, you give the AI specific requirements, but want to make sure that it's according to certain legislation of an industry or whatever, that would be something that will come later on with our. CD is asking, I'm going to discuss this with the head of legal. Cool. I think this is very interesting, but I would really appreciate insight on confidentiality of the treatment of the contracts. CD, let's do it like this. Let go on our website and book a meeting with us. And then we can discuss the use case. And then if needed, we can also sign an NDA to have those information confidential. And then we can provide you with all information regarding IT security. And if needed, I'm happy to set up a call with our CTO, so you can actually ask any question on the security standard. Does this tool include foreign law, US law, for example? Again, not yet. So anything that you require from the AI to review, and if it's according to US law, you'd have to build into the playbook for now, and then later this year or beginning of next year, we will be able to actually connect any external resource like US law if you have specific needs, and then make sure that AI checks first with the external resource, and then make sure that the review is happening according to those legislations. Then a question from Robert. How does it handle complex? Oh, that's a good one. Handle complex contracts, for example, combinations of framework contracts and project agreements, back-to-back contracts. That's a good one, and I hope I can answer it correctly, and my specialists within the company they don't rip my head off because I tell something wrong. So there's a limitation of understanding logic. We see today some limitations of also, for example, if you have a contract with a couple of documents and there are references between those documents. AI has limitations to understand that correctly and also bring results in an accurate way, in a really good standard where you say you pose 100 times the same question, you get 95 times the same answer, right? So there are some limitations on understanding logic, and with the back-to-back contracts, it's really something that we'd have to look at. What's exactly the question, what you want to achieve with it, and whether AI today, with today's technology, actually can accommodate that. So complex contracts are really something that we'd have to specifically look at. Book a meeting, let's discuss it in depth, and then we'll get an answer. And if you cannot do it, we will tell you we can't do it, and then we'll have to wait until technology is as far progressed that it actually can cover this kind of questions. Can you, again, Robert, can you feed it with company-specific guidelines, learnings from earlier projects? So obviously the guidelines you can build in the playbook. What we have not done is that AI learns based on past projects or past contracts. And this is on purpose because The challenge sometimes is if you teach AI on every base of every contract, and there's some exceptions to any contract, so AI will learn all the exceptions. And at one point in your lifetime of using AI, you will find then the challenge that AI will then have what kind of standard rules, because it accepts all the exceptions, and then suddenly the exception becomes the rule, and AI doesn't know what is the standard anymore, right? So it's a really tricky thing to make to expect from AI that they understand the logic. When is an exception just an exception, and when is an exception a new rule? That's a good question. Let me take this up with my dev team, how this could be actually solved in the future. And then I'll know for the next webinar if such a question comes up. So, okay, CD has another. Reading the playbook, is there a limit to the training we provide to the AI? Very good question, CD. So regarding the training of the AI, Legartis has pre-trained the AI on around about 150 topics, clauses, covers from, we have a module for software contracts, we have a module for NDAs, we have a module for DPAs, we have a module for commercial contracts, we have a general module with clauses that are basically in any kind of context, like jurisdiction in court and governing law and stuff like penalties and damages and stuff like that. So these clauses are all pre-trained. So you don't have to do the training. AI is fully trained. You only have to give them the specifications like the playbook. It has to understand your guidelines. And this is a process, a rather simple process to set up those playbooks, and then AI knows how to apply your guidelines. If there, and we are fully aware of, if there are, and also we have a construction model for construction contracts built last year. So if you have a specific clause or specific clauses in your industry that need to be covered, and we cover today, then we can do the training for you. We have our own legal engineering and machine teaching team, all legally trained people, great people, understand how AI has to be trained. We do it since 7 years, and we can train the AI on your specific requirements and specific clauses very fast, very cost effective. So again, book a meeting. Let's discuss that in detail, how we could approach this. Then another question, 150 clauses or sample contracts, delta analysis. I'm not sure I understand the delta analysis part, but the 150 clauses, they have been trained the last 7 years on thousands and thousands of contracts. So that's why our AI has a semantic understanding of language, because it has seen almost any formulation of a specific clause that is in German, English, and French today. So we cover German, English, and French pre-trained. Not sure whether this answers the question, because I don't understand quite the contracts delta analysis. Hope this answers the question. Nicole, do we have any questions left in the chat I didn't cover yet?
Just one is left. I think it was, there we go. Can you process up to 50,000 pages of contracts?
Yes. Yeah, we can do 500,000 pages of contract. That's not a problem. We can do 5 million if needed. It will cost quite a lot, but we can do it. Yeah. That's the beauty of AI. It's scalable.
Delta analysis is Kaufvertrag. Kaufvertrag, Delta Analyse.
Yeah, still it doesn't ring a bell. I'm not a lawyer, and forgive me for my incompetency about the Kaufvertrag Delta Analyse, but I'm happy to discuss it in detail and then learn something new. Does it show red lines? Yes, it does show red lines. If there's something missing, if there's something in a contract that is not acceptable, if there's a clause with missing or not acceptable data points, it will redline the contract or the specific phrase, and I think I showed that in the beginning of the demo. Then we are almost on point, right? So if there are no other questions, there's another question. How does the cost work? Is it by size of the contract, number of contracts, monthly subscription? It's a yearly subscription. It's number of contracts, number of users for the contract review part. If you have a big analysis project, like a one-off project where you say you have 50,000 contracts to analyze, then it's based on the number of contracts and number of data points that we need to analyze. And then the specifics we'd have to discuss really in details. But you have seen the use cases that we showed today. It gives you a hint on where the costs approximately lie. So if you need more specific details, then book a meeting with me and we can discuss. And also, if you want to calculate the true costs, I'm happy to help, as we showed earlier. Let's have this discussion then in detail. Okay, with that being said, I have to feed a little one. It was great having you all in the webinar, and we're looking forward to the next one. Nicole, I think you have in mind when the next one is. And there's another one in February with a more technical topic, I think, as I only obviously can cover commercial side of legal AI. When is the next one, Nicole?
On 27th of February.
And what topic?
The rise of AI agents.
Oh, that's a good one.
2025 will be the year for leveraging, and the development of AI will increase again. And AI agents will really revolutionize again the legal market, I think, the legal tech market.
So absolutely, coming back to that point of skill building, look into the topic of legal AI. Go to the webinar on the 27th of Legartis. I think legal agents are, it's a big thing coming. It almost sounds a little bit like the Terminator movies, but on a more positive end result, I hope. So go and join this webinar. It's very interesting what the capabilities of those AI agents. And with that being said, I'll jump off. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon again. Danke, Nicole.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.